All right, welcome everyone. Commissioner Hayes Wilkinson will not be able to join us this evening, so we'll proceed. The first item on our agenda is a financial update from CFO Chris Pickle. Ms. Pickle.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
What I'm presenting tonight is a financial update for August of 2024. And yes, it's this. Oh, and she has it up there too. So. Okay. So the first page is going to be the revenues in the general fund. So let's just start in the upper left corner and go across the columns. So first you have the account name, which is a description of the type of revenue that was collected. And then next we have the fiscal year 2024 expenses through August of 2023. And fiscal year 2025 expenses through August of 2024. Revenues. I wrote expenses in there.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we have fiscal year 2025 expenses, revenues through August 2024. And next is the fiscal year 2025 total budget and the percentage of the total budget. And then the last column is a surplus or deficit when compared to the previous year. So as we go down the rows, you'll see the account numbers and then the descriptions again. And in this first section, we have the local taxes, which are ones that mostly are collected by the county and then shared down to us. In the second section, you'll see the state taxes, and this is our local share that the state sends to us every month. In the third section is other sources, and those are mostly ones that are collected at City Hall. It's a larger list, but it is a smaller amount on those. Overall, the revenue is up by $58,000 when compared to August of 2023. Moving on.
And this is for the fiscal years 2025 starting in June, or is it right?
July.
July. We passed it June. Okay, just make sure everybody understands what they're looking at,
So year to date.
especially me.
Yeah. So at the top of this sheet, it says year to date through August, and what that means is July 1 through August
Yes.
31. Okay.
Exactly. Okay, so the second page is actually the expenditures. And so you have the same columns as before. So you've got the fiscal year 2024, which is August of 2023. Fiscal year of 2025, which is August of 2024. The fiscal year budget for 2025, the percent of the original budget, so the total budget, and then the surplus or deficit from the previous year. Overall, the expenditures were up as well by $253,000. A large portion of that is the increase to the creation of the new community development department, which has $98,000 in expenses through August of 24. Administration and finance also saw an increase of $46,000 compared to the previous August, and that was mostly comprised of the contract with Robert Half, which was for me, and the contract with SHI International, and that includes the brokerage and yearly maintenance with Civic Plus for the webpage, the agendas, and the minutes. The government buildings area of Public Works also had an increase of $77,000, which is due to restructuring the expense coding that had previously been in each department, and that's now under government buildings. So they've just consolidated it to make it easier. So moving on to the next page. It's the summaries of the revenues and expenditures for the other funds that are not the general fund. So going across, you have the same columns that we had on the previous two pages. And going down the rows, you have the name of each of the funds and then a line for revenues and expenditures. So in summary, for the fiscal year 2025 through August of 2024, we stand at a deficit of $937,640. And I know that seems like a scary scenario, but it really isn't. So in the landscape of government finance and management of public funds, we have peaks and we have valleys. And right now we're currently in a valley. And this is typically a slower period for revenue. So there's no need for concern. Collections will increase once the 2024 property taxes start coming in. And those usually start in October. So I anticipate that we'll be back on a peak in a few months' time. Okay.
Well, I paid mine in March, or right before March.
Fiscal going on previous years.
Yeah, right.
It should start. On a departmental note, starting in October, I will meet with the department heads each month to provide a financial update, which should enable them to track expenses more effectively. This will also allow an opportunity for them to give me feedback to help me improve our internal processes in the finance department.
So on that last page, with the proprietary funds, solid waste and stormwater are both billed with property tax. And so that's where you're talking about us being in a valley right now, because those property tax bills won't be paid for some time yet.
Right, they're actually billed in September, and then they'll start getting paid in October, and we get
Right.
like our funds in November.
So we're anticipating to continue very low revenues for the next few months, and then it probably will all balloon up
Yes.
all at the same time or similar time. Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Pickle? Thank you. Thank you so much.
And congratulations on your first report. Thank you.
All right. The next item of business is citizen comment procedures, discussion only. I'd like to welcome our city attorney, Mr. Stoltz, and our city manager, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I put together this slide, so if there's any problems with it, I own it. But I did consult with Arnold, and I invite Arnold to add his thoughts and share his expertise throughout my presentation. Next slide, please. So tonight I wanted to take a few minutes and just refresh us about our public comment procedures, share some background, some research that we did that got us to this point, as well as benefiting from experience, talking about the Tennessee legislative intent behind public comment, and finally recap our Red Bank practices. Okay, so background. Public comment as a specific agenda item is established in the Red Bank City Charter. The previous commission, not this commission, but the previous commission, desired to eliminate bickering and create a meeting environment that built confidence and efficiently conducted the public's business. MTAS, the Municipal Technical Advisory Service, was asked to provide training to the commission. MTAS did provide training. It was billed as civility training to commissioners and the then brand new city manager in November of 2021. At that time, additional discussion took place with a focus on roles and best practices surrounding public comment. Next slide. That's the background. Now, research. We entered a research phase, and Mayor Berry and I participated in a webinar from an entity called Jurassic Parliament. Jurassic Parliament is a national trainer. They focus on elected officials, clerks and recorders, superintendents and chief executives and nonprofit boards. And their goal is to help these people understand how to conduct meetings in general, but they also teach Robert's Rules of Order as well. So they're kind of a go-to expert. So we participated in their webinar. And they reminded us that the purpose of a commission meeting, the purpose of a commission meeting is just that, a meeting of the commission to conduct the city's business in public. I will add that there's a variety of other forms of meeting. There's town halls, there's public hearings, there's a meeting of the public, and the commission meeting itself isn't really any of those. It is a commission meeting. And so in the context of a commission meeting, there is an appropriate place for public comment. The purpose of public comment, speaking of that, is to allow the members of the commission to become informed on the views of the public. Robert's Rules of Order, which we follow, provide little guidance on public comment. So what everyone should be doing is adopt best practices, and that is what Jurassic Parliament does. They promote best practices. So what are those best practices? Here we go. First of all, public comment must be carefully structured. Second of all, a written handout explains the policy, and I'll just highlight that we've established that. It's available in the brochure in the back, and it explains public comment. Next, we should announce these guidelines at each session and be consistent over time. We should inform the public it is a one-way communication to commission members, but recognize that the public may have different expectations. So education is critical. And yes, ma'am.
Why is it a one-way communication?
I'll actually touch base on that. There's a couple of variety of reasons. One is to stick to the agenda, one is to manage risk, and one is to provide everybody an opportunity for a more complete answer. In the moment is usually not the best. There are, specifically with regard to risk, a lot of members of the public in today's culture, they want to trigger a member of the diocese. And I'm not talking about Red Bank in particular, or you or any of us in Red Bank, but nationally, in public comment periods, people will come in and they just know exactly how to pull this person's string, and they do it. And that person takes the bite, and then it's on, and the meeting gets ugly, people leave angry, and oftentimes the public entity will encounter risk and sometimes litigation and ultimately loss because of what was said in that exchange. So the back and forth is not a best practice, and it is to be minimized. That's kind of where Jurassic Parliament comes down on it, and pretty much everybody else.
Can I ask Mr. Stolz if he has anything he'd like to add?
Well, it would be expounding on the same points the city manager just brought up, and kind of based on experience. One thing is, as targeted comments, planned ambushes for one commissioner or another. I've seen accusations of theft directed against the mayor of public funds for no reason whatsoever. And it causes an uproar. I've been in this room and had two policemen standing behind a excited and hyperbolizing citizen who would not sit down and would not obey the rules, and what had already evoked a argument that went from here and here to here and there and then back over to here and there. And so the entire business of the commission was interrupted. One reason Robert's Rules of Order doesn't address the topic very much is because traditionally in parliamentary meetings, there's no such thing as citizens' comments. The United States Senate allows no citizens' comments. The Tennessee State Legislature does not allow citizens to address the entirety of the body. Only when a member, and it's been cleared by leadership, are limited comments or presentations made by persons that are not already in the state government. And the risk of liability is real. Context. A citizen comes up to complain about the condition of a roadway. Make perhaps a legitimate complaint, or just advising the city that there's a roadway with a bad pothole, and it caused me to almost have a wreck. Perhaps Commissioner Wilkinson says, "I know about that. I've known about that pothole for a long time. It's really dangerous." All of a sudden, if we can't get out there in the next 10 minutes, we're liable for whatever happens as a consequence of that pothole, whether or not it's a burst tire or knocking a vehicle out of its lane and into a head-on collision with somebody else, because we've got notice. We have notice, and if we find out about stuff like that, we're going to fix it, but it's not advisable for colloquy to go back and forth between the commissioners or just off-the-cuff comments to be made. And that sort of tact can come through, particularly if other persons are involved. And so it works well for the purposes that I understand that public comments, what we have now, a defined policy that is followed, works well, and just exchanging comments or promising to do something or another other than have someone look into it just is not in the best interest. of the city. So maybe I talked too long.
No, we appreciate your comments.
Some of my anecdotes.
We got a short agenda, it's okay.
You have more experience in this room and with this situation than I think anyone else sitting here today. So we appreciate your perspective.
Well, I remember the mayor that I said got accused of theft. And I used to sit beside the mayor. The mayor was coming down red as a beet with fists, and I held him. It was a really, really nasty situation.
Now,
So that's an extreme example, but it happens. It does happen.
well, you speak of liability, so a worst case scenario could be something like the situation you described, and then potentially the city falls into a lawsuit, potentially loses, cost the taxpayer dollars to at least settle or litigate that lawsuit. So ultimately, would you say it's accurate to characterize that not having a back and forth with citizens during citizen comments is a matter of responsible stewardship of taxpayer funds?
Yeah, definitely. It mitigates the risk. And any lawsuit costs a bunch of money. Win, lose, draw, settle, whatever. It costs money. And it takes time and attention away from the administration's activities. And it is costly to the taxpayer's dollar. Certainly is, no matter what the result.
Thank you, Mr. Stolz. Sorry for the long interruption, Mr. Granum.
Thank you, Mayor. As I was saying, public may have different expectations. So the word in Jurassic Parliament was education is critical, but establishing a path of practice and creating expectations, because it's often the same people that come into the meeting in terms of commissioners, staff, and the public, and creating a rhythm where people kind of understand what's gonna play out. That is one form of education. It is appropriate to have a sign-in or ask people to provide their address. And it should specify that the speaker is to address the entire commission, not individual members or the audience. Some of these things should sound familiar to you because I took it from Jurassic Parliament and put it right into our pattern. Follow time limits, and it is appropriate for staff to manage. In some cases, members of the elected body will manage, but it's not inappropriate for staff to manage that portion of the meeting. And there are some cautions. This is not a dialogue. Do not get into back and forth with the public. And responding to some speakers and not others can be interpreted as showing bias. And occasionally, if it seems like an easy question to answer, we do answer, but we actually should refrain. We should be consistent that the speaker speaks and then takes their seat and we move on. And because we've all heard what they said. And as soon as the meeting is over, we're all scurrying around, getting to that person and answering the question or working the issue. Experience, and this is now not the research phase with Jurassic Parliament, but experience. Coincidentally, when we were taking a look at this, the Small Cities Coalition, which Red Bank is one of 6 local cities in that coalition, along with Saudi Daisy, Eastridge, Collegedale, Lookout Mountain, and Lakeside. They had a presenter come in, and he was an insurer, and he gave a presentation on the risks that legislative bodies such as yours encounters during public comment. In general, back and forth between elected officials during public comment presents risk to the public entity. Heat of the moment comments can become the basis of litigation and possibly loss to the public entity. And this person suggested carefully managed public comment is necessary to minimize risk to the public entity. And he specifically mentioned 2 things: provide written guide to public comment and be consistent over time in our conduct of the public comment portion. Okay. Summer, if you'll go to the next one. So what does the Tennessee legislature say about that? They don't directly talk about public comment, but they have been very active recently on the issue of agendas. With recent legislation that requires 48 hours of an agenda in advance of the public meeting. Statute does allow for flexibility with regard to specific content. So if we deviate from the agenda, we haven't broken the law. But nevertheless, the intent is clear. The published agenda should inform the public what is to be discussed in advance of the meeting. But allowing public comment to morph into a robust discussion of items not on the agenda is not consistent with that intent. So that is another reason to really not carry on a dialogue resulting from public comment, because it's by definition not on the agenda. So what is our current practice? Since the 15th of February, 2021, when we rolled out our brochure, and it's been tweaked and refined since then, but we really commenced these practices in February of 2021. Public comment taken for each agenda item, and that is something that you have instituted, Mayor, and I think it's fantastic. It's a best practice whereby, as we work through the items on the agenda, there's an opportunity for public comment specific to that agenda item, and we've been very consistent about that. So that is one aspect of public comment.
Well, I will say that does predate me. I think our attorney would refer to that as custom.
It's a healthy Red Bank custom.
Right.
Yes.
It's not written anywhere, but it is customary, has been before my time customary for us to do so.
Well, like a lot of things in Red Bank, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. For the public comment agenda itself, and so what I'm getting at here is for those who don't realize, there's public comment associated with each agenda item. But then as you get down to the bottom of our agenda, public comment itself is an agenda item. And so we have written guidance in the form of this trifold brochure that I keep mentioning that explains how to do it. And then it is a staff managed portion of the agenda with a scripted introduction that I read every time. There's a management of the timer from the city recorder, and that allows the commission to simply focus on this, which is the goal of that period of time for the commission to hear what the public has to say. Responding to none of the speakers results in a consistent practice. It yields even treatment of all speakers without bias and often allows for a more complete answer. Final thoughts on our current practice. It promotes an efficient and safe meeting environment for all. And when I mean for all, I'm referring to the members of the commission, the staff who are participating, and the members of the public who walk in. All parties are served well by this current practice. It incorporates best practices, as we've learned from Jurassic Parliament. It manages risk, as we've heard from our city attorney and an insurer. It preserves the integrity of the agenda, which is the intent of the Tennessee legislature. And it facilitates best responses to issues raised. And I would say that's on the part of staff. It gives us a chance to go back and do some homework before we make an attempt at a on-the-record response that may be not fully baked. Having said all that, staff are here to support the commission. Should you desire any changes or revisiting our current practices. So we're very happy with how things are going, but it seemed like an opportunity to bring this back up and just make sure that this is the wishes of the commission.
I have
Mr. Stoltz.
some added observations, if that's okay.
Please.
Love to hear it.
No one is against public comment. Red Bank, as pointed out, goes the extra mile. We have multiple opportunities throughout the agenda for public comment, some focused on particular agenda items, and then a generalized public comment for items not on the agenda. These were efforts and policies and practices born of trying to allow the voters and the public and the taxpayers to have input throughout the terms of the meeting. And no one else that I know does that. Every other city that I am aware of has one specified period for public comment. And so I do think that Red Bank goes the extra mile. It's important to realize that this policy and practice and procedure, in my opinion, being a good one, is always something that this body can suspend and go off on a particular issue if they're just determined to do so. But all the things that the city manager was talking about are still in play. The potential of liability of the staff and administration not being in a position to evaluate the information being presented or to know exactly what's being talked about and what our circumstances and policies are, or what even the finances attendant to an issue are. So that's why public comment never exists in a vacuum. There's always some sort of follow-up or evaluation of comments that follows that as to whether or not a response is needed. my silly example of a pothole being just an example of something that could occur. You can always suspend the rules in the context of an emergency and take actions. We do need, in my opinion, a policy that we follow most all the time.
Mhm.
And it's a good thing what we have going here. It works better for the public business to be conducted appropriately and civilly and in an organized fashion than anything we've ever had here at Red Bank, or at least over the last 40 years.
I hear tales of other cities having commission meetings that go until midnight, and public comment is often not an insignificant contributing factor to incidents like that, and I don't think that's where any of us want to be. I think our meetings have been conducted in a very orderly and efficient manner for several years now, mostly since the implementation of this policy. Any questions for Mr. Granum? or about
Well,
this
I do
policy?
have one. You know, human nature. We want to be heard and understood and acknowledged. And, you know, to have no response just seems like we don't care, you know? And I understand that. Could there be like a pat response, you know, thank you?
Yes, well.
Yeah, I mean, just have
Perhaps
something
no
to
response,
say.
Overstates it. The mayor has been very consistent with saying, thank you, Mr. Granum. Because they heard the introduction and the mayor is very consistent about, you know,
Okay.
recognizing.
Well,
and appreciating.
and that's my only point. I'm not saying we get back and forth. Well, no, we didn't or nothing, but thank you for your comments or whatever. But
Yes.
you know, just to sit there in silence and come up and say, hey, here's what I got to do, and everybody, and then walk back to your seat.
And
You know?
what I would add though is the appropriate person to do that is the person chairing the meeting.
I'd agree with that. Okay.
And I do also agree that the mayor has been really good about that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm not saying that it isn't, but I'm just saying that there's.
As
I will
part-
change my
part
script to
of-
say no response.
Yeah.
A appreciative response.
Oh, yeah.
appreciative response. Yeah.
Just acknowledge that you've been heard and understood.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm not saying that we've done anything or we're going to do anything or,
Standard appreciative response.
so it's even with everybody, you know,
Mhm.
so. And you have been doing a great job of that, Mayor.
I try. Sometimes I struggle making sure I repeat people's names back to them with the correct pronunciation. Any other questions on the citizen comment? Yes, you do. Okay, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Granum and Mr. Stoles. Our next item of business is a library card pilot program update from our Community Development Director, Johnson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I wanted to give you real quick just an update of where we stand on our first release of our library pilot program for cards with the city of Chattanooga's public library. We launched it just at our last meeting, September 4th. We briefed you on the 3rd, opened it up on the 4th, and within 3 days, we had issued those initial 100 cards that we had released. So making that possible was some generous sponsorships from HGA Construction, Rise Partners, and River City Physical Therapy, totaling $3,000 toward matching funds for this particular program. So very appreciative for those efforts. I'm not real big at soliciting or promoting or trying to push something out, but given the nature of this program, we had a lot of reception to that. So I'm very thankful for those initial 3 donors. After we released the first 100, we actually had to start creating a waiting list. We had a lot of people that were still reaching out and communicating. I think it started at 17. We ended up with 20 on a waiting list. So I am happy to say as of today, we were able to use the remaining balance matching funds with our city budgeted funds to issue those additional 20 cards. So our goal this budget year was to go after 200 to get those released. So we're right at 60% of achieving that goal. So coming up, we will make every effort to start getting some more information back out there. Just a note, especially with our community event this weekend, so we will be waiting until next weekend to do another push on the interest for the library card. So overall, I think it was an initial success. Over the next year, we will start monitoring just activation of cards and regular use of cards. We will not be tracking any personal information, could care less what people are checking out, but it's an opportunity for those people to get into the system and understand what programs the Chattanooga Library does offer that may not even require a card membership. So there's some dual activities that will be happening not only for us, but it'll tell the library system what's interested, what's not, maybe find some other areas that they can develop some programming around. So as we go, I will keep you informed as to how we keep moving this pilot program forward.
So they scan their library card when they get to the library.
Correct.
So that's the way you'll
Correct.
keep up with the
Yes.
numbers of use.
And it's just the number itself.
Yeah.
We don't have any identifying feature as to who. We just know that it was one of
Okay.
the cards that was issued through the bank program. Yeah. Yeah. So while I got you, if I can, if you have any more, don't have any more library card questions.
Just to clarify, so the current waiting list has been cleared.
Yes,
Excellent.
yes,
But are we still maintaining a waiting list for any new people that
absolutely.
reach out?
Absolutely. I think we had another couple that came in late this afternoon. So yes, we're kind of starting it all over again and letting
Okay.
them know it is a wait. But we do timestamp those requests when they come in. So it does become a first come, first serve. And we'll be to them just as soon as we can after we have another release.
Excellent. Thank you. Please go on.
Thanks. As I mentioned, I think you guys are aware of our community engagement workshop that's happening this weekend.
This one?
Yes, maybe that one. Yes, this is our second public engagement workshop. And I really started identifying it more so as a workshop because we are inviting people to really, it's a hands-on experience. It's not just a come sit, have a cup of coffee and listen to someone spill information to you and then raise your hand if you like or you don't like. We learned from our first workshop that this type of an engagement is really what Red Bank citizens are eager and very active participating in. So this workshop too will be on site. So what better way to identify what you would like to see happen on the property than to experience it while you're there making some decisions. So we will have a tent installation. It'll go up tomorrow. So that will allow us to have the activity rain or shine. Hopefully the weather's going to be nice and we'll have some shade under our tent. We'll
And
also-
exactly what day and time is this?
This is happening this coming Saturday. the
This
21st.
coming Saturday.
Drop in from 12 to 2-ish.
Okay.
And we expect whoever's there, we're gonna walk through the process. We're not gonna shut down and close anything off and push anybody away. we
So
will-
from 12 to 2 on this Saturday.
This Saturday.
This Saturday.
This
Okay.
Saturday?
You may have seen
This
some banners that illustrated
Not the
that.
very next Saturday, but this
This Saturday.
Saturday. That's
Yes, yes. So, free pops, free frozen pops, as they're, first come, first served while supplies last, but there will be the availability to purchase some food and beverage and just make it a lovely day.
All right. Any other questions
No,
on our
no,
upcoming community
I
workshop
just wanted to
this
put it out
Saturday?
there, repetition isn't, oh, and thanks for the banners. Across
Yes.
acknowledging that. If they didn't see the banners.
I can't imagine having this kind of an activity without a banner.
I'm pretty excited about the tent actually because I'm thinking that if people start seeing the tent pop up on the property, even if they
Yeah.
haven't seen anything else, they'll go, oh, what's going on?
Right.
Timing is everything, so
Yes.
it's a couple of days. We've done a press release. I apologize if I did not get this out to you guys. It's been a whirlwind trying to make sure we line everything up for
Oh.
the significance of this engagement opportunity just can't be understated.
Are there any of these flyers, do you happen to know, posted in the vicinity of the property itself?
I do not know. I know on our calendar for tomorrow is a heavy push. We have freestanding signs that we will be putting out.
Okay.
So it's almost like this trickle effect. We've started with the banners and the tent's gonna go up tomorrow. More signs will go up. We've learned in the past that if you put signage up too soon, people become a little nose blind to it. And so again, we'll continue to put the message out there.
Okay. A lot of people just visit that property to, you know, throw frisbees or walk their dogs. So I just want to make sure that anybody that's frequenting that property or neighbors that live nearby are seeing.
We have large signs.
Yeah, if they want to find out why the tent is there without having to call somebody, that there's something for them to see.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, isn't it?
Yes, we think so.
All right, any more questions for Director Johnson? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, item 5 is Taylor King. She's here if we wanted to bring her up earlier.
Move it up on the agenda. Okay.
That's okay, be there.
If it's all right with everyone, we will skip ahead to item 7. Add Taylor Kenzer to Red Bank Public Art Citizens Advisory Board. Sorry, Director Johnson. Resolution number 24-1735.
Thank you. The Public Art Board had one vacancy. Can't remember the dynamics of it, but they had a vacancy. And so we had an opening again, and we had a local Red Bank resident, Taylor Kenzer. She is here this evening. She did submit an application to express her interest in being a member. Again, she does reside in Red Bank. She brings to the Red Bank Public Art Board over 15 years experience as a fellow artist and a creative professional. So her appointment will fill that remaining vacancy. We've already reached out to the chairperson in anticipation of this evening to try to push her with a flood of information to bring her up to speed as soon as possible. So very appreciative for her interest to help us to fill that board's membership.
Thank you. Ms. Kenzer, would you like to add anything? No pressure.
Come on up, speech.
It's not required.
No speech, but I've lived here for 4 years, my neighbors. And I've been excited to get involved. I've been very busy, but this just seemed like a good opportunity to get more involved, and it just kind of was there. I don't even think I knew it was vacant until someone else that's on the committee currently, they reached out to me, and yeah, so I'm excited to see what happens and how I can add my experience.
Well, I read over your application and you are definitely way overqualified. So we are very excited to have you. Thank you for your interest in
Yeah.
And she really goes over the top on the Halloween costume stage.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
Okay. Exciting. I definitely have to check it out. All right. Any questions for Ms. Kinzer or Director Johnson regarding the Public Art Committee?
Thank
No,
you.
no,
for
thank you
volunteering.
for your
Thank you.
service. Thank you.
All right. We got a few more minutes, so we'll return to item 4, National IT Professionals Day, resolution number 24-1734. And City Manager Graham, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This is just simply to recognize all those who make our IT systems work so well. And if it's okay with you, Mayor, I'll save reading the resolution for the regular session, but it really is all about two people and one business. It's our CIO, Chief Dan Seymour, our IT manager, Stacy Bradley Rump, and our RJ Young professionals who under contract support us as well. The three of them together have really moved the city forward in a digital transformation, and the audio visual that we have is just
Case in point.
completely spectacular. It's just an example of that. So when we wrote up the resolution, we actually left something out, so I'll just voice to it right now. We forgot about all the mobile technology in our emergency response vehicles. That Stacy in particular is a big piece of keeping it working.
Excellent. Any questions regarding the IT Professionals Day? All right, then, Mr. Granum, your next item is National HR Appreciation Day, resolution number 24-1736.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. There is one epic superstar, and I think I'll agree she is an epic superstar, who's not here. She is, speaking of epic superstardom, she is getting her certified municipal finance officer training, as if she doesn't have enough to do already. I'm talking about Tracy Berry. But there's more than Tracy too. Tracy has a thriving relationship with MCAS, in particular Betsy Cunningham, who is an HR consultant, has been huge help to City of Red Bank. And also Tracy has established a network with other HR managers in the local area that's become quite a thriving network of colleagues to consult with. And they call her a lot. And I'll hold this up. This is actually a best practice, this jobs by grade that Tracy has developed, and I'll show it to everybody. It's a part of our budget that lists everybody's pay and their classification, and that's just a best practice. So we're really proud to have that product out there, and that's Tracy's work.
Excellent.
Any questions on HR Appreciation Day? Other than we very much appreciate our one and first ever certified HR professional. All right, I'll move on then to item 6, approve purchase of pool covers, resolution number 24-1733. And I'll welcome Director Tate to the floor to tell us more.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Find my place here. Well, I'll just make it from here. I laid this copy of the Robert Kenneth Buchanan Red Bank Municipal Swimming Pool timeline for you to look at. I went back and looked. I'm going to be coming in the meeting with a resolution to request money to buy an almost $20,000 swimming pool cover. And that cover is to protect a large investment that the city made going back as far as 2015. And if you look at the timeline, the commission approved $76,000 and some change to Kennedy Pools Incorporated to renovate the pool. And due to their inability to perform the work, the city manager terminated that contract in December of 2015. And then in March of 2016, 2 resolutions came before the commission. One was a $134,000 cost for Everclear pools, which the commission rejected. But then the commission approved a $100,000 resolution for the Public Works Department to perform the repairs and renovations and manage the contract themselves. And from there, it was piecemeal, bringing contractors in to do different parts of the work under the supervision of the Public Works Director at the time. And you can see over the years, the expenses. Well, then shortly after that, the City Commission approved $21,464 for a swimming pool cover. And then shortly after that, $14,500 for repair of a leak that was detected during the renovation, bringing the total that can be physically tracked to $162,327 that was spent on the Red Bank swimming pool at the time. Now, this doesn't count the labor, the material, the equipment usage that the Public Works employees put into it, because in 2015 and 2016 and 2018, we worked over there for several weeks, taking the top deck off, replacing piping and drainage that we all did in-house. And, it's just nickels and dimes to Lowe's and Home Depot and Ace Hardware and, all the labor that went into it. So I estimate that the cost that the city put into this pool over those years was over $200,000. And so I'm asking for an $18,000 swimming pool cover to replace the one that's there that has been eaten by rats. And part of it is dry rotted, possibly due to insufficient storage, but we have rectified that situation. Justin Hedrick manages the pool now as far as the facility, and he's come up with a solution on the new cover, how we can keep it, hopefully extend the life going forward.
So would you say the contract of $134,000 was not approved in 2016, and then $100,000 was approved with Public Works doing the work, serving as its own contractor? Would you be able to estimate one way or the other whether the in-kind expenses ended up being incurred by the Public Works Department exceeded the $34,000 overage that was not approved eventually?
I would say so.
That was my suspicion.
Some of those overages were not actually part of the scope of work that Everclear Pool or Kennedy Pool was asked to do.
It would have been additional work
It would
anyways.
have been additional work. There would have had to be some change orders. And that's the reason that Public Works did a lot of work. I mean, if you would have been over there in the 2017, 2018 timeframe, we actually had the deck that you can walk around and jump off the side of the pool. We had just about that whole deck open, and there's 6-inch drain lines under there, skimmers, and, your employees, did the jackhammering and replaced all the piping and fixed a lot of leaks that were missed
during the $100,000 renovation. You know, we fixed one side of it and got it running and got it in good shape. And then the next year we realized, okay, we've still got more leaks, and it was different processes that had to be done.
So I'm seeing in 2016, commission approved, as you said, $21,464 for a pool cover.
Mhm.
You were able to find a pool cover for less money today?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, the same person that provided this one for 21,000. I'll just tell you briefly the story. I asked him, you know, about the price. If it went up, could we anticipate spending the same amount of money? He said, no, it's going to be about 25,000. And I said, I'm going to have to put that out for bid. He sent me a quote about 3 days later for 22,000. And I said, I can use that, but I'm still going to have to get 2 more quotes. And so I reached out to a couple other companies, and one company in North Georgia, they're going to come and pick up our cover and carry it to their facility and make sure they make it exactly like the one that we have now.
Oh,
So to ensure that it's going to fit at a cheaper price than he was willing to do. So
wow. Well, good work. Finding a good deal.
This
It's
was a
not often-
budgeted item too, right?
This was
We
budgeted
had
item.
this in our budget.
yes, sir.
It's not often you see a cost for the same exact item go down after
down.
8 years.
Right.
So, bravo.
Well, we probably should have found Pinnacle pools 6 years ago.
Well, better late than never.
Yes.
Any questions regarding the pool cover?
when will it be ready?
It probably will not be ready till probably October, November timeframe, because they won't come and pick it up till I notify them tomorrow. And they'll come pick it up sometime in the next week or two. And they said it'd be 2 or 3 weeks. So I figure probably November before we see it, but we'll keep the pool running. It's a little green right now. Somebody turned the pumps off. And so it's a little green, but Justin's taking care of it, getting the water circulating, getting it treated so we can cover it up when we do get the cover.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no more questions, it's time is for citizen comments for items on this work session agenda. Mr. Granum?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time for citizen comments. Please observe these rules. Comments are limited to 2 minutes or less, and the city recorder will operate a timer. Please respect her direction and conclude any comments if time expires. Comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to a particular commissioner, city staff, or the audience. The commission is here to listen, not to respond or engage in back and forth. So please do not expect a reply during public comment. At this time, citizens are invited to the podium. Please begin by stating your name and address.
Hello there, I'm a first timer.
Welcome.
It's good to see you all. Josh Branham, which is funny, 1 letter off from you. Josh Branham, 2963 Emdicala Highway. I am Governmental Affairs Director for Greater Chattanooga Realtors. Our association represents all 2,700 realtors in the Greater Chattanooga area, and you all are part of that. And I stepped into the role of Governmental Affairs Director about 6 months ago, and part of my focus is to reach out to areas that may not have been visited by our association and our realtors in the past. So part of that, I've got a mailing list started, but I have some housing data for you all. This is for August of 2024. It's last month. This data, in short, you've got a graph on the back here, but it does show that in August of this year, you went in August of 2023, there were 15 new listings. In August this past month, there were 26. So you had new listings there. The median sales price reflects a 16%, almost 17% increase from this time period last year. And so it does reflect for the city of Chattanooga, where I just came from, the increased inventory is helping stabilize housing prices. So, but I included my contact info there. I would love to be a resource for you all, any sort of housing data you may need. Awesome thing, I got plenty there, so you all can have that there, and you'll be seeing me, especially on these Tuesdays after city council, because I just came straight from there. And, you know, love to have a good time with you all. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We have different grants available for like placemaking initiatives. I grew up in Red Bank. And so now I have a wife who has lived on Signal her whole life, so I'm still around here all the time. But love Red Bank, and any information I can give you, I'll be more than happy to. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Branham, for coming. We appreciate you joining us today. Any other comments for items on tonight's work session agenda?
Clifford McKay, 2618 Berkeley. Okay, this comment's pertaining to the financial update. I appreciate the update. I appreciate the fact that we do this so we keep the running total. But I do have a comment about she felt the need to basically with $900-something thousand deficit, quote unquote, to make sure people realize that it was nothing to be alarmed about. Perhaps it should be more publicized, the reason for this. I understand you don't get taxes till March. So, but meantime, there's debt. I don't ever hear specifically who finances that debt until we pay it, because you owe somebody. I know the policemen don't wait around until March to get paid. So anyway, it needs to be explained better, maybe, that what's going on. Because people see a deficit, and, oh no, actually the income's coming, but it's not here yet.
Thank you, Mr. McCabe. Any other comments on tonight's work session agenda? Okay, if there are no more citizen comments, then does any of the board have any other business to discuss? Oh, and Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Mayor. If I could, I placed an email at each of your,
Regarding election day.
yes. May I, Mayor?
Please.
So this is a pseudo resolution from me. Commissioners, given that we are going to have an election on Tuesday, the 5th of November, and given that our regularly scheduled first Tuesday of the month commission meeting falls on that day, and given that the Red Bank itself has items on the ballot, and given that most people who regularly attend the commission meeting will have competing interests and activities on that day, and given that we can easily cancel the first meeting in November, as has occasionally happened in the past on similar occasions where the election falls directly on a Red Bank election night. Therefore, I suggest we discuss at this tonight's work session. Staff are looking for a consensus from the commission to direct us to bring forward a resolution for commission consideration during our next commission meeting on the 1st of October, which if passed would cancel the 5 November commission meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I do recall in 2020, the commission meeting for was following on an election night, and that meeting was canceled. So I certainly have no objection to it. I think everybody's going to be wrapped up one way or the other that night with various electioneering activities.
Yes, ma'am, and not just the commissioners, but
The
most of the people who
auditors.
come to these meetings are
Yep.
kind of dialed in on that sort of stuff, so
Mhm.
they'll want to be elsewhere involved.
Right. Does anybody else have any thoughts, opinions about canceling the November 5th meeting?
I mean, we still get paid and everything.
All $200. We won't.
No change to your stipend.
We won't dock 1/24 of your $200.
I think it makes sense. And I do recall it also being canceled in the past, and it makes sense because
It makes
people are going to
sense.
be busy. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's we got a consensus from the majority of the board, so we'll see that on the agenda for formal consideration October 1st
Yes,
at our
ma'am.
next meeting.
Thank you, commissioners.
Excellent. Any other business? Okay, if there's no other business, then we'll adjourn our work session and we can reconvene at 6 o'clock for our regular meeting. You got 7 minutes to make your way back.
Mhm.